And welcome back to this set of Greyhound vs. Nick the Man, game 2 of 2 from the One More tournament. If you've not seen game 1, I suggest you check it out. It's the previous video I've uploaded with the Czechoslovakia and Scandinavia flag on the thumbnail. So what do we have here? Greyhound vs. Nick on Nuclear Winter. Greyhound is playing Landshut. Landshut on Nuclear Winter? Not the deck that I would have chosen. Now, it makes me think that maybe Nick's map choice was Nuclear Winter. Let me actually check. Let me give you some inside information right here about the deck choice that Greyhound had left. Now, you have to submit 2 sets of 3 decks each, and your opponent may ban one of the sets. And, well, the other deck option that Greyhound had was Scandinavia. Honestly, I might have preferred Scandinavia. You are lacking when it comes to like the tanks, especially on the heavier end. But having Chimera and wheels also would have been very good. On the other hand, of course, Lancia does get the Tiger, which is quite good on this map. Fuchs Milan with BGS. Did I see that correctly? Oh yeah, I do. Holy, that is not something that I've ever seen or I remember seeing. What an interesting choice. I mean, it is. Huh. That's a lot of Fuchs Milans in his deck. You may, of course, freely adjust the decks in between games at this stage of the tournament. But let's actually take a look at the deck. I know you've seen it on screen the entire time, but I was not looking. No farm, which is interesting because Nuclear Winter farm snipe is relatively hard to pull off. But on the other hand, you want to start with 2 CVs, so that becomes quite pricey. Also quite expensive on the CVs, only 2 cards, and only 4, let's say, cheap CVs. FKP over Mega 90. FKP are 5 points cheaper in a sense that, sorry, 10 points cheaper even, because they get a 5-point wheel transport, and they're 30 points, whereas Mega 90 are 35 points with a 10-point transport at least. Still an interesting option. I'm not sure if it's worth it. Then again, right? 875 meters range is really nice to have on your AT weapon. Support tab relatively normal. Again, no heavy artillery whatsoever. Relatively expensive on the anti-air as well. That's one thing in Landshut and many of the German coalitions. Their anti-air is relatively expensive. And since you're not Eurocore, you don't have access to the Crotal, which is a very safe AA to use. So, yeah. Tank tab pretty standard. Recon tab, again, the BGS in the Fuchs Milan is a choice that I've not seen. No 30-point recon helicopter either. You don't necessarily need it, especially in the tournament setting where you know your opponent's deck beforehand. Their value, or the value of such cheap helicopters, does drop a decent amount. That said, he does have the Fennec 20mm in the helicopter tab, which, while it doesn't really have optics, it will be good enough to spot non-stealthy units out in the open. 2.5 cards of Ace-Fs, I'd say, given that he has the MLU. Starfighter? I think that's the Napalm Starfighter, right? Oh, okay, hold on. Interesting unit choice, but I think is he gonna try to napalm somewhere there and push here? The thing is, the road or the bridge is so close to the spawn that you can't really napalm the bridge off itself, right? Interesting choice. F100D, one of the better rocket pod planes in the game. You don't see a whole lot of rocket pod planes. Next deck. Oh, I love this. I do love the decks where you can run 2 cards of infantry CVs when they're 4 per card. With 8 infantry CVs with 2 cards is really good. And infantry CVs are by far the best type of CV in my opinion. They're so versatile and can be incredibly tanky and of course stealthy. Shumatudoren, Hans, Hedging 90, So Chong-su, relatively standard, maybe with the exception of the So Chong-su. You do very frequently see a card of reservists in Blue Dragons because they get very good reservists thanks to their very strong 5-point transport, the K200. And even if you don't, you very often see at least line infantry in the K200. That said, Nick once again leans more towards a somewhat more expensive type of infantry with the, well, expensive is relative, it's still just 10 plus 10 with the So Chung-Su, and even upbits them, right? That is again surprising to me. They don't benefit that much, and honestly, given how cheap they are, I'd rather have the numbers, but that's just personal preference. Hawk, Tansam, K263, pretty standard. K9 Thunder, it got buffed. Two Gods of Kiyomaru, he's one of those weirdos who upvets one of their Kiyomarus and has them at two different veterans. Ugh. K1 Nanyun Shiki G. Nanyun Shiki, you don't see that often. It has incredibly good burst damage. Maybe it comes into play, who knows. Tokyonsa Ninja Hachinana, pretty standard. M36 standard. Plane tab is somewhat standard. You do usually see 4 cards in the plane tab. Block 52 is a must, sometimes downweighted. I can see it being downweighted. He's fastened at least 1 card, the ATGM variant. ASF, sometimes you see the KF16C, sometimes, like in this case, the F15J. And sometimes you also see like the F1 or the other piece fastened as your 4th playing card. But of course, again, it also just depends on like, when you're allowed to adjust the map for the deck. Depends on the matchup. And the Ninja and Piece Fastened, the ATGM Piece Fastened is a very deadly combo that very much might work on this map because there's so much open area, especially here, right? So if the fight happens here, or like maybe even in this area, like in this bushes in between where you don't have a lot of deep forest, Ninja spawning and the Piece Fastened just sniping your stuff, very much a real possibility. Now let's see what Greyhound spots. Greyhound does love opening with ASFs on this map, huh? Incredibly expensive opener. Tiger, KWS. No tank whatsoever. That said, you don't really need a tank in the opener. Especially if you're not gonna push here. Which I'm still not certain is his plan. Maybe he expects a push here. He spots the ninja, doesn't want to dive it. It's pretty scary. Spots that's an infantry CV here, I presume, but he doesn't have the artillery to actually punish that. Or he wants to push here himself, maybe? That is spicy. I mean, he does have an automatic. I'd be surprised if he wouldn't want to try to push. Fennec dies. What? It does kill something. I actually missed what it killed. Probably the MT helicopter CV transport. No, that was an HMV actually. I don't know. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry that the deck was still up. Okay. Very little in terms of defending a town push here. Nick is very aggressive down here. I'm not sure if it was a miss micro or if it was just a bit too late with the smoke. Maybe the Fennec screwed him up a bit. Maybe he wanted to take this road into this town. I don't know. Down here, very cheeky push here. Very cheeky, but you need to be careful there that you don't send in your stuff one after the other just for the Udoren to snipe them, which are not in the building, by the way. By the way, I mean, coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? But at this point, Nick has pretty much no eyes on this, so there is an opportunity here to punish that. H1J here to defend, but I unsure how you want to fight in Delta. But we probably just want to spam FKP, honestly. And it is relatively easy to push back in there because there's very little open area where the recoilless rifles can annoy you, but yeah, it's still annoying to push back in there against recoilless rifles. Certainly an interesting push that Greyhound is doing here. I think it really depends on like whether he can pull something here off. But Nick does not seem to be bothered at all by the fact that this is completely open. So who knows? And finally, this is being moved up. Longitude is incredibly slow for the most part. You have some wheeled units, but you don't have the wheeled support units, right? Like you have your shock infantry. No, I guess you don't have shock infantry, but you have plenty of elite infantry and wheeled stuff, right? ATGMs and such, but you don't have Hachinanas or something. You don't have wheeled AA other than the Roland 3, but you don't want to have to rely on a Roland for your like wheeled anti-helicopter stuff, because it has only 2 missiles. Oh, the cheeky fire position on the... I'm not sure if it was landed or hovering low, either way. Very cheeky. And splits the salvo to also get the AA piece. Usually I wouldn't necessarily say that's a good trade, but he has 4 ninjas to kill and 4 F100Ds. If that's when points wise, it's definitely a good trade, right? 65 point plane versus 90 point helicopter and 40 point AAPs. Points wise, a good trade. And even value wise, as in like what you want to get out of your card of F100Ds. There's only so many targets usually per game, and I think most of the time, if you're getting point, oh my god, this is why you, oh my god, absolutely getting punished for not being loaded in there. Just even getting a just good point value out of your planes in this scenario, or for rocket propelled planes, is usually good enough, because they don't tend to have a lot of long running value throughout the entire game, like a bomber or something might have if it survives and keeps getting out, right? Like, it's not often that your 140 point bomber or something actually does get 140 points worth of value in a single bombing run. And even if it does, it might not always be worth it if you lose like half of your card, because you get, it's a 2 per card plane or something, right? But these rocket ball planes usually have only so many targets throughout an entire game, or realistic targets, that was easily worth it in my book. Right, so Nick obviously was unprepared, now gets some stuff, but in my eyes, way too late. He did move this at some point here, which, you know, is something at least. Graham does manage to get in there. However, what I am really scared of is relying on an automatic this close to an airspawn with against a deck that has a seaplane that you will definitely see at some point, and you know it's gonna be in the deck. Always if it's spicy. It's also fast with stealth, so microing against it is gonna be difficult, especially if you don't know yet whether it's being bought or not, right? If you know or if you've seen it before throughout the game, then you know it can appear at any moment and you're at least somewhat prepared, but yeah, definitely spiced. Okay, it's turned off now finally, thank goodness. Still, it can be very annoying trying to dislodge like a special forces from a town like that. F100D gets out alive. I didn't even pay attention to what it sniped. Tansheim is a veteran now. It's word does or reduced accuracy, but it's very inconsistent. But being on veteran helps a lot. We also saw that it did hit the KWS earlier. The unfortunate part of relying on this Dragona here is you're slow and you have pretty poor AT, so it's gonna be difficult to actually hold for Greyhound, especially because with the town blocking this and the towns being somewhat deep. Line of sight is gonna be an issue for your fire support. Maybe he gets some good shots on those who do it in while they're trying to cross buildings, but gotta pay attention to that seaplane. And this is where something like Fallschirmjäger and the Fuchs would have been very nice. There's the seaplane, by the way. Let's see. I think Rayon spots it. Because he's moving. He did not spot it. I mean, he did spot it, but way too late. Okay. But what I was saying is, this is where Fallschirmjäger 90 would have been very good, because if he had gotten him in the opener, getting him through here would have been very fast. But the FKP, their Jupiter is slow. Although I guess you could have just unloaded them and walked them, but not having any shock or decent AT here is gonna hurt him quite a bit. I guess that's what the Milan's wait for, because, you know, Fallschirmjäger 90 is 45 points at least, and they're like 25 point a pop. But he didn't manage to get them into the town, so he has very, very little to deal with us. All those light vehicles. 9 Shiki has arrived. It fired 3 frag grenades and did nothing else. Ooh. If he can snipe that, it's... Okay, that is incredible. So, especially when you're playing against a deck with automatics, you want to keep your seaplanes alive no matter what. Oh, and here we saw the horrible side armor from these Nanaions. Very good. That was a crazy turnaround for Greyhound. Of course, he's still gonna lose his position, but never having to worry about his seaplane for 32 minutes when you have access to an automatic is crazy good. If you've ever played against an automatic deck and you don't have seaplanes, you know it's painful as hell. So this is gonna be quite something. Also napalm here from the napalm planes, by the way, which I completely missed. Very good usage by the way. Those had to have been 2 napalm planes, right? Had to have been. That's the other thing with Blue Dragons. The long range AA are Hawks. And Hawks are awkward, right? You will never be in a situation, or like, you never want to just buy a Hawk for your anti-air. So you have to spend 70 points for your Hawk and then something else because you almost always want another piece of anti-air with it. And thus you, especially on a wide map like this, don't see Hawks being used that much, by Blue Dragons at least, or early on I should say. And you know, with all the planes being used here by Greyhound, he more or less knew that there was no real AA other than those Tansams. And with the shooting down the block 52D, this was like very easy, like free napalm strike. It still cost him 160 points, assuming that he did in fact buy 2 of those napalm planes, but we'll see this in a second. Maybe it was just one. If maybe there's like a very good spread on those bombs. Let's actually pay attention. I'm curious now. Honestly, it might have been just one with very good, very lucky spread here. As the M15J, probably gonna get the kill off here. The Gepard. Where's the Gepard? Did the Gepard die? Greyhound did buy a Gepard here at some point. Did I miss it being killed or did he cancel it? Maybe he canceled it? I don't know. Either way, +2 for Greyhound in a second. But yeah, there's Hudo Renz now. Support is being brought to K263s. Damn. K900s with Heb Young. But Nick is fortifying this nonetheless. And Chumats are excellent at the gem infantry. He has plenty of recoilless rifles, so winning the soundback, even with an automatic, gonna be quite difficult. And late game pushing India, especially after your initial push failed, is gonna be difficult, because then your opponent will have reinforces quite a bit, presumably, whereas if you never push there until the late game, there's always a chance that your opponent never bothered to reinforce it because you never probed there, right? But I think now it's gonna be very difficult and very cost intensive for Greyhound to push him out there. Oh, he had a weapons turned on the BGS and gave their position away. I mean, he would have lost them either way, but that didn't really matter. Achikushik, he's gonna not deal with those M41s because they couldn't get spotted. Still, to be fair, I guess there's nothing really stopping those M41s right now. Starfighter is coming in and dying and not doing anything. Yeah. Unless you know exactly where it is and you can essentially cut off all the routes from an infantry CV, it's gonna be difficult to actually kill it when it's out in the open like that. Links probing. Push happening here. The Agra is still alive. Look at their TPS, man. It's just crazy. Okay, now I'm curious. Did those get the Jupiters are being bought for here? Did this M113 also get bought for there? I wonder. Small push happening here. I think the Copper should stop this. There's no AA there. But nothing is really stopping this. There's no ACGMs here. There's nothing here for Nick. He did not see this coming. He was look at the stuff being bought for you. There's 40 points there. That's 60 points here. That's another 40 points here. Another 40 points there. 2 spags versus what? 60 points in these and 60 points in this 4 stack. Ooh, Nick did not see this coming whatsoever. KWS. Ooh, loses out. More starfighters. And no AA. Where did the Tantam is still here? Just doesn't have the coverage. And Napalm, a bit too close, but the stun. Oh. Gets out alive, unless this patch of fire kills it. Oh, it was close though. That said, Greyhound gets a position and gets the +2. Although, Greyhound has to be careful that Nick doesn't start a counter push, right? Whenever you fail a push and your opponent, let's say, somewhat over-invests in their defense, always gotta be careful that you don't suddenly get counter pushed. There's some defenses coming here, and there's a relatively large distance between those two pointers. But you gotta be careful. Oh, M41 is moving in. I don't think that Civi is gonna survive. M41 does have enough fuel, and there we go. Crazy good push from Greyhound. Those Turkyonza though. Inside the Cobra are not gonna be enough, and you don't have a Cobra here for launcher. You do get a Fennec 20mm though, and without like anti-air or even like decent autocannons, they have the DPS to do with this stuff. Unless of course they are in infantry range. They don't have armor, right? So they die to special forces, especially quite quickly once in range. Greyhound does have to be careful though. You should not want to. You should try to avoid over extending here. Once you realize you're not getting in there, I don't think you should try further unless you suddenly can massively overwhelm. But yeah, you're so close to the spawn, you have only such a small window to actually get stuff done. Yeah, there's all the fire support there. Nick relying quite a bit on those F-15Js now, because you know he doesn't have a hog on the field. One of the two ones is dead. Starfighter still just dropping. How many Starfighters are left? Should be the last one, surely. Yeah, there's a Fennec 20mm. Very important fire support here. FKP. Oh, did the FKP really miss the KAFV? I mean, I'm sure it wasn't shaken before the KAFV started firing. That's so unfortunate. There you go. More peace pheasants. It's very scary with the leopard because those things are on the edge here. They can't. I'm pretty sure they did spot it while crossing the open. And fortunately for Greyhound, it did not happen. Oh, that's a scary leopard. Where's your smoke? Where's your smoke, Greyhound? Greyhound again doesn't have a mortar. Greyhound does know this thing is here. He lost the Fennec to it, or should know it's here. He lost the Fennec to it. Oh no, that leopard is dead. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't thanks to the Sochung Su that Kyorogu just got close enough, but that push just pushed back just like that. To be fair, right? You're very close to the spawn. And currently Nick does have air superiority, and when Blue Dragons gets air superiority, say goodbye to your vehicles. And once again, Greyhound did not have his AA nearby. In fact, he didn't have any AA nearby, because this is a fresh unit and might just get sniped. All that being said though, and Greyhound will find it out pretty soon, there's nothing left in Delta anymore. All those units were used as a counter push, presumably because Nick was like, he has to do counter damage and force Greyhound up of this Charlie push, right? Which might have worked here, but on the other hand might also come back to bite him. Maybe he overestimated what he needed to do to get this push dealt with, because all Greyhound really spent here, at least initially, was the Fennec and those two line infantry squads, and Hudor and get the automatic kill. They did enough damage to stun the automatic so it couldn't fire back. Greyhound would have wished his La Caperota in the last game were able to do the same thing, but they did manage to stun the automatic. M67 has a higher caliber and presumably have a higher caliber, I don't know. But suppression of your AT weapon is directly tied to the caliber. So that, coupled with the extra AP for more damage, presumably was just enough to get the stun off. Still napalm happening here from Greyhound. Greyhound barely defending here, and this one automatic again down to 1 HP because of those who ran. These Pheasants still circling. Does Greyhound have no KWSs left? I wonder. This is probably the last Gepard. I think he... Yeah, his automatic is up, but he only gets 4. Very cheeky Chumat here. Are they gonna fire on the MN? Oh, it doesn't look like they are. So Nick has the automatic firing turned off. Oh no, he doesn't. Oh, unless he just gave it a manual order. You don't wanna... definitely don't wanna lose a supply like that, especially when you don't have a bomb to resupply your other supply units, right? This is literally all the supply you get. Those FKP are gonna be able to hold on decently. But only for so long, especially... Wow. Wow, what a snipe from this Fuchs Milan. Okay, it's gonna be... Okay, good snipe here. Good micro there to make sure to break line of sight while they're reloading with the cargo stuff so they can snipe the vehicle. By the way, missed again. Snipe the vehicle and then get out of line of sight immediately while reloading. Oh no! Oh, Greyhound. Those things have 21 AP. Leopard 2 A1s have... Where is it? Did I say have one left? No. Leopard 2 A1s, this is base Leopard 2. Have 7 side armor, which is just enough to one-shot 7 armor. No, sorry, get one-shot by 21 AP. Oh, Greyhound, no. This poor Leopard. FKP should... Ooh, murder in the town, but it did take quite a lot of damage. Right, Greyhound still has his F-16's Block 15s. I forgot. The CV is way more forward than he expected, so that napalm does nothing. Oh, with the Stinger C, that Gapper 2 does the job. And, you know, also 65% accuracy in on those guns. These Pheasant 2s just circling around. Way too deep again. Gapper 2s have crazy DPS. Don't have the range of an automatic, especially against planes, but their DPS is really good. Like, barely was in range and dealt 6 damage, right? Oh my god, if only... Oh, and I was gonna say if only Nick knew, but Nick is getting to know soon. Leopard 2 being pushed back, especially against Tokyonsa. They deal a decent amount of damage. Not like crazy, but with 18 in B against 15 armor, it's certainly nothing, especially if it's 2 squads there. Gotta be careful with your Cobra there, the napalm can't deal damage to it. And it immediately gets killed. Nick definitely looking, unit-wise, to be in a better position. Positioning-wise, better. Yeah, the conquest points though. 10 minutes of a +1 would be 150 points. Would, if he got a +1 now, be just enough. Oh, well, a bit more than just enough, but... He needs to get a move on if all he's gonna get is a +1, but who knows what's gonna happen in Foxtrot, right? A sudden push of like a few Kyurokus that Greyhound doesn't see coming. He uses those, and then Nick gets a foothold position here and can put a CV in there, right? With no artillery to speak of, and maybe like 1 napalm, maybe 2 napalm bombers left. Who knows? That said though, Nick only has infantry CV, so he has only so many hiding spots there. Kane and Thunder firing away. Shiki easily dealing with those deeps. Oh, the Naranshiki just obliterating that. Starfighters getting obliterated as well. I think those should be the last of them. That said though, got, you know, 42 minutes of Starfighter usage. Some of them died earlier than others, of course, but... Oh, that Fennec might die very easily to that Handsome. Still the same one from the start. So it is on Veteran. That said, the Fennecs are very small, so they get reduced accuracy. And again, Peace Pheasant flying just a bit too close to the sun and just getting burned. Oh. Magic. There's the Handsome Pop. And Pop again. Oh, those Nanions are gonna eat up those Martyrs at this range. However, if they get too close, the Martyr 2s are gonna eat them up. Interesting to see so many Nanions being bought. That said, Greyhound has mainly used Dragona, so the grenade launcher is really helping out in those scenarios. That said, if the Dragonas hit, Nanion are gonna pay for it. A base Panzer grants in the Martyr 2? Am I seeing this correctly? I completely missed that. I mean, there's 5 points for a Panzerfaust 3, and I think you get 2 fewer per card? I think that's worth it. I'm not sure why I'd omit that, unless it was just a misclick when building the deck, which, you know, has happened to me before. In fact, it's even worse, because I, if you remember, in the previous tournament, put FJB into my deck instead of LSTR, right? Okay, finally the +1 for Nick, but in 5 minutes, that's 75 points. That wouldn't be enough for a win. And we get our second draw. Thunder down 6 rounds should definitely move up to the farm. Not getting a ton of value out of that farm, I gotta tell you. I think somewhat rare, because there's actually just been constant action. First here, then down there. So Nick was never really the moment where he could comfortably buy the Thunder until like recently, right? Because if the push was constantly happening on one front line, I think it's much easier to get just a little bit of breathing space to get that artillery. But as soon as he got India cleared, he was getting pushed in Charlie. F-16 barely surviving, and I think, honestly, probably worth to just keep circling and see if maybe there's a plane coming out, because with 1 HP left, I'm not sure if we're ever gonna see it again at 3 minutes, with 3 minutes left. So might as well just keep it circling and hope to get some kind of value out of it that way. Because either that or 9 HP being repaired, you're never gonna see it anymore. Okay, that's dead CV. Well, he stopped like 1 tick or something with that, so, you know, it's better than nothing, I suppose. PNMK. Landing there. Oh, Nick is just a bit too late here. To be fair, though, he also had to invest first, right? So, you know, late is one thing, but if you have to buy a CV first and such, that you might, the points you might need here to push out the other CV. You know, just getting almost singled by the singles back there. I don't think that's enough. Even with a +2, +2 would be 45 points. Sorry, +3. I think getting the +2 here and turning it into a +3. Oh, but 45 seconds left. Now an napalm plane would be great. Oh, anything happening down here? Nothing. It's not enough. We got ourselves another draw. Would you look at that? Much worse KD this time around, but that was an interesting Lancet deck. I'm still surprised by this. Base Pentagrams. FKP I can somewhat understand, still wouldn't go for it myself, but napalm planes you don't see very often. BGS in the Fuchs Milan. Now that is some rare shit. Now all that being said, we gotta do our wargamers, right? Let me just set that up. I'm too lazy to stop the recording. There you go. So, Leopard 2, as always. Oof. Okay, West German. 10 HP, 70 kmh off-road. That is really fast. 70 kmh off-road. Not an MG3 as weapon 2. Poor optics and stealth. This could be a Marder 1. Marder 1 is really fast, but Marder 1 is older than 79. But it might be like a Marder 1A2. It's not a vehicle. Or like not in the vehicle. Marder 1's even 75? Holy. Could it be it's okay, it's not in the vehicle type. I was gonna say, could it be the VTS1? It's not. Is it really a support unit? But the Gepards and the Rollins are like 60 and 65, no? Hmm. 70. I mean, the wheeled Roland 3 I don't think has that great off-road speed either. Maybe, or does the Roland 3 have 70? I thought it had 65. It does have 70. Oh, that's Roland 2. I do like the Roland. I do prefer the West German Roland over the French one. For one, because of the off-road speed, but also the top armor, right? But I thought it was 65 and not 70. Damn. And now September 1st. Alright, we got... it's not in mech or in either mech or armored, or maybe even both. Faster than 70, lower than 10 HP. It's probably... but not... I'm gonna say it's like a Jeep. However, it doesn't have doesn't have poor optics. It's a helicopter, huh? Probably a helicopter. Especially given its speed. Like what non-helicopter unit with 5 HP is faster than 70 km/h, right? It has to be a helicopter. Given it's not in mech or armored, I'm not sure. It's not like a Recon helicopter unless it's like a ninja or something. And it can't be a Recon helicopter because of the optics, so it has to be transport. Or not transport, sorry, a helicopter type. I don't think there's anything really with bad optics, unless maybe you're looking at a supply helo. But given that we have autonomy, which supply helos don't have, that's not the case. So we're looking at medium optics, I'm almost certain, which could be like a DAP. Right? Look at the DAP. Has 3 weapons though, so it's not a DAP. Apache has the 64 TD. Oh no, it's not 8 HP though. Okay. It's not that many medium optics helicopters. And like something like a SoCal also has 3 weapons, right? Maybe does the Seahawk? I don't think. Oh, you know what? The beta. The betas have 6 HP and I think medium optics. Okay. Okay. 40 or 260? 40 or 260. 6 HP indeed. Size small. That small? 6 HP and medium optics. Could be Cobras. Cobras, I think they do 10. No, aren't they 280? Lynx is way faster. Panthers are faster. Ooh, you know what it could be? It could be the transport. SoCal. This thing here. Yes! Oh my god, I'm so proud of myself. There's not a ton of 6 HP helicopters that are small. There's not a ton of 6 HP helicopters in general with medium optics. I think also the only transport helicopter with medium optics as well. I don't think anything else has better than poor. Yep. Either way, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the war gamers. And I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Bye bye.